Hello everyone, this is Anime Uchiha X here, and today I am doing a what if Issei was a legendary hero reincarnated. Issei Hayadu sat on a park bench, the cool evening breeze rustling the leaves above him. He had always been a regular high school student, a bit of a pervert with a knack for getting into awkward situations. But lately, something had been bothering him, a nagging feeling deep within his soul, as if a part of him was missing. He couldn't shake the sensation that something was about to change. Across from him, his two closest friends, Matsuda and Motohama, were chatting away about the latest girl they had seen at school. Issei tried to join in, but his mind kept drifting back to the strange dreams he'd been having. Dreams of battles, of wielding a sword against monstrous foes, of a life that seemed both foreign and familiar. His thoughts were interrupted when a beautiful girl with raven black hair approached him. She was dressed in a school uniform, and her smile was warm and inviting. Issei felt his heart skip a beat. There was something about her that was captivating, almost otherworldly. "Excuse me," she said sweetly, her voice like honey. "Are you Issei Hayadu?" Issei blinked in surprise. Yeah, that's me. Do we know each other?" She shook her head, her smile widening. "Not yet, but I was hoping we could get to know each other. Would you go out with me?" Issei's friends nudged him excitedly, urging him to say yes. Despite the uneasy feeling in his gut, Issei couldn't help but agree. "Sure, why not?" The girl's smile grew even more radiant. "Great! Let's take a walk." They strolled through the park, the setting sun casting long shadows on the ground. The conversation was light, but Issei couldn't shake the growing sense of dread that gnawed at him. Something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. As they reached a secluded area of the park, the girl suddenly stopped. Her warm smile faded, replaced by a cold, sinister expression. Before Issei could react, she stepped back, and her hand began to glow with a dark, ominous light. "You've been a good sport, Issei," she said, her voice now laced with malice. "But I'm afraid this is where your story ends." Issei's eyes widened in horror as the girl's hand transformed into a spear of light. She thrust it forward, piercing his chest with a sickening crack. Pain shot through his body as the spear impaled his heart, the world around him spinning into darkness. He fell to his knees, gasping for breath as his life force ebbed away. The girl, no, the fallen angel, looked down at him with a twisted smile. "This is the end for you, human," she hissed. "Die, knowing that you were nothing more than a pawn in our game." As Issei's vision blurred, something deep within him stirred. A flood of memories and emotions that weren't his own surged through his mind. He saw images of battles long past, of a hero fighting against overwhelming odds, of a soul that refused to give in to darkness. A burning hatred for fallen angels and devils welled up within him, a deep-rooted loathing that felt as though it had been there for centuries. "No," Issei muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "This isn't the end." With the last of his strength, Issei reached out, grabbing the spear impaled in his chest. A strange power, ancient and primal, awakened within him, flooding his veins with light. The fallen angel stepped back in shock as the light enveloped Issei, the force of it pushing her away. The pain in his chest subsided, replaced by a warm, comforting sensation. The light around him grew brighter, more intense, until it exploded outward in a blinding flash. When the light faded, Issei was lying on the ground, the spear of light gone, his wound miraculously healed. The fallen angel was nowhere to be seen, but the mark of her attack remained, a faint scar on his chest. Issei slowly sat up, his mind racing. He didn't understand what had just happened, but one thing was clear: he had survived, and something within him had changed. The memories of the legendary hero were now a part of him, and with them came a deep, unwavering resolve. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain: he would find out why he had been attacked, and he would make those who threatened him and his friends pay. As Issei stood up, a cold wind swept through the park, carrying with it the scent of danger and the promise of a new beginning. The legendary hero had been reborn, and his battle against the forces of darkness had only just begun. The next morning, Issei woke up in his bed, staring at the ceiling. For a moment, he wondered if the events of the previous night had been nothing more than a bad dream. The memory of the fallen angel, the light spear, and the overwhelming power that had surged through him all felt too surreal. But the faint scar on his chest was real. He traced it with his fingers, the cool touch of his skin reminding him that what had happened was no figment of his imagination. The memories that had flooded his mind, the battles, the hero's sacrifice, the hatred toward devils and fallen angels, still lingered, like echoes of a life he hadn't lived. Shaking his head, Issei got up and dressed for school. He decided that, for now, he would try to go back to his normal life. There were too many questions and not enough answers, but he couldn't let that stop him from living his everyday life. As he left his house, the morning sun bathed the streets in a warm glow, and the familiar sounds of his neighborhood filled the air. He met up with Matsuda and Motohama on the way to school, and the three of them walked together, their usual banter providing a welcome distraction from Issei's troubled thoughts. But no matter how hard he tried to focus on the mundane, his mind kept drifting back to the park, to the moment when his life had changed forever. School days, haunted nights. At school, Issei tried to act like nothing was wrong. He attended classes, joked with his friends, and even flirted with a few girls, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His senses seemed heightened, as if he was more aware of the world around him. He could feel the presence of supernatural beings lurking in the shadows, watching him. The memories of the legendary hero, the one whose soul now resided within him, were more than just memories. They were a part of him, influencing his thoughts, his emotions, and his instincts. He found himself drawn to things he had never cared about before, old myths, tales of heroes and monsters, ancient texts that hinted at a world beyond the one he knew. After school, Issei returned home, his mind heavy with the weight of his new reality. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling once more. The darkness of his room felt suffocating, and he couldn't shake the sense that something was coming, something that would challenge him in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. The park revisited. The following day, Issei found himself drawn back to the park where everything had started. The memory of the fallen angel, of the pain and the power that had awakened within him, was still fresh in his mind. He walked slowly, his footsteps echoing in the quiet of the early evening. As he approached the spot where he had been attacked, Issei felt a surge of anger. The hero's hatred toward devils and fallen angels burned within him, fueling his resolve. He couldn't understand why he felt this way, why the mere thought of those beings filled him with such loathing, but he knew it was a part of who he was now. Issei stopped at the exact spot where he had been stabbed, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the area. He could sense that something was off, as if the very air around him was charged with tension. Before he could react, a figure stepped out of the shadows, a man dressed in a black suit and a black fedora hat. His presence was unnerving, his eyes cold and calculating. Issei immediately knew he was dealing with a fallen angel, but this one was different from the girl who had attacked him. There was an air of danger about him, a sense of purpose that sent a chill down Issei's spine. "So you're the one who survived," the man said, his voice low and menacing. "I'm impressed. Most wouldn't have made it out alive after being struck by a light spear. But you're different." Issei clenched his fists, feeling the power within him stir in response to the man's presence. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man smiled, a cruel curve of his lips. "My name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're in possession of something that doesn't belong to you. The power of the legendary hero. It was never meant for someone like you." Issei's anger flared. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not giving up anything without a fight." The fallen angel's smile widened. "Very well, boy. Let's see if you're worthy of the power you hold." Without warning, the man lunged at Issei, his movements swift and deadly. Issei barely had time to react, his body moving on instinct as he dodged the first attack. The memories of the legendary hero surged through him, guiding his actions, sharpening his reflexes. The battle was fierce, the air crackling with energy as the two clashed. Issei fought with a ferocity he hadn't known he possessed, his hatred for fallen angels fueling his every strike. The man was strong, but Issei's determination was stronger. In a final, desperate move, Issei channeled the power within him, unleashing a blast of energy that sent the fallen angel flying back. The man hit the ground hard, skidding to a stop several feet away. He slowly got to his feet, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. Interesting, very interesting. It seems you've inherited more than just the hero's power. But this isn't over, boy. We'll meet again. With that, the man disappeared into the shadows, leaving Issei standing alone in the park, his heart pounding in his chest. Days passed since Issei's encounter with the fallen angel in the park. He was still trying to make sense of his new reality, of the power that had awakened within him, and the memories of a hero long forgotten. Every day felt like a balancing act between his normal life and the strange new world he had been thrust into. One afternoon, as Issei was leaving school, he felt a strange sensation, like he was being watched. He glanced around but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Shrugging it off, he started walking home, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling. As he entered a quiet, tree-lined street, 3 figures stepped out from behind a corner, blocking his path. They were all dressed in identical blue hoodies, their faces obscured by the hoods. Despite their casual attire, there was an air of authority and purpose about them. Issei tensed, his instincts screaming that these people were different. The power within him stirred, sensing something familiar yet unknown. One of the figures, a tall man with a confident stance, spoke first. "Issei Hayadu, we've been looking for you." Issei narrowed his eyes, his guard up. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man pushed back his hood, revealing a sharp, determined face. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of seriousness and excitement. "My name is Kaido, and these are my comrades, I am and Hiro. We're part of the Hero faction, and we've come to invite you to join us." Issei blinked in confusion. "Hero faction? What are you talking about?" Kaido nodded to the others, and they all removed their hoods, revealing their faces. I am, a young woman with fierce eyes and short black hair, stepped forward. "You're not just an ordinary student, Issei. You're the reincarnation of a legendary hero, a warrior whose power is unmatched in the history of the supernatural world." Issei's mind raced. "How do you know that? I don't even know what's happening to me." Hiro, the third member, a quiet man with a calm demeanor, spoke up. "We've been watching you, Issei. We've seen the power that's awakened within you, the power of the hero whose soul you now carry. But we also know that you're new to this, that you haven't yet unlocked your true potential." Kaido stepped closer, his expression serious. "Issei, the power you have is incredible, but it's also dangerous if you don't learn how to control it. That's why we want to help you. The Hero faction is dedicated to training those who inherit the power of legendary heroes, to guide them so they can use their abilities to protect the world." Issei hesitated. He didn't know these people, but their words resonated with him. He had felt the overwhelming power within him, and he knew that he was barely scratching the surface of what he could do. But the idea of joining a faction, of getting involved in something much bigger than himself, was daunting. Iam seemed to sense his hesitation. "We're not asking you to make a decision right now. We just want to show you what we can offer, to help you understand the power you have and what it means to be the hero reincarnated." Issei looked at them, his thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and curiosity. "And what happens if I say no?" Kaido shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Then we'll respect your decision. But we believe that you were reborn for a reason, Issei. The world is in need of heroes, and your power could make a real difference. We just want to help you realize your potential." After a long pause, Issei nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll listen to what you have to say. But I'm not making any promises." Kaido grinned, clearly pleased. "That's all we're asking. We'll start with the basics, help you get a handle on your abilities, and then you can decide what you want to do. Hiro handed Issei a small, folded piece of paper. Here's where we're staying. Come by tomorrow after school, and we'll begin your training. Issei took the paper, his heart pounding in his chest. He was about to embark on a new journey, one that could change everything. The uncertainty was terrifying, but a part of him, perhaps the part that belonged to the legendary hero, felt excited, eager to discover what he was truly capable of. As the three members of the hero faction turned to leave, Kaido glanced back at Issei. One more thing, Issei. Remember, you're not alone in this. We've got your back. With that, they disappeared into the shadows, leaving Issei standing alone in the quiet street. He looked down at the piece of paper in his hand, then back in the direction they had gone. For the first time since the incident in the park, Issei felt a glimmer of hope. He didn't fully understand his new powers, but now he had a chance to learn. A chance to grow. And maybe, just maybe, a chance to become the hero he was always meant to be. I think I will leave it off here. If you enjoyed this What If Issei Was a Legendary Hero Reincarnated, hit the like and subscriber and hit that little bell.